Hello again, everybody, and welcome back to our community. Our community is a vodcast that is sponsored by I've Decided and the Greater Peoria Family YMCA. I'm Andy Thornton, your host, President and CEO of the Greater Peoria Family YMCA. And with me today is David Bell, and I'll introduce David here in just a little bit. Coverage. It's more than just insurance. It's about safeguarding every aspect of your life. Your health, finances, personal growth, and faith. Are you taking steps today to prepare for life's challenges and seize tomorrow's opportunities? Well, join us as we explore how small, intentional actions now can protect your future self, build resilience, and create a life filled with confidence and purpose. Hi, David.
Hey.
Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, super glad.
So David Bell, entrepreneur, business owner of an organization called Lifeline to Health.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about who David Bell is and what is Lifeline to Health.
All right. Well, David Bell, me, I'm a father, four under 12.
Wow.
Husband. I'm an entrepreneur. Love to have fun and love to train for triathlons.
Do you really?
It's been new the last 3 years since the pandemic. Lots changed since the pandemic. But yeah, business owner of Lifeline to Health. And so we're an organization that provides a lifeline to those that are looking to make a change in their, whether it's the physical health or their financial health. And so we provide the free coaching, training, and a system for them to follow. And we've created a little community in what we've got and really supply them with what they need.
How long have you been doing that?
So that's a good question. So I started in 2021.
All right.
Stepped out of full-time youth ministry in the pandemic. Long story, which we won't get into, but my son has health challenges. And so being immunocompromised and the pandemic, we had lots of questions. Didn't know if we send our kids to school, will they come back, get him sick if we send him to school? So we just decided I'm going to step out of ministry. My wife went on to the weekend program as a nurse.
Wow.
So together we were home during the week and we homeschooled. At that time we had 3 kids. And so after that whole year, I loved it. Probably one of the best years in a while. A lot of freedoms, just a lot of healing during that year. And then I realized, I have to go back to work. I have to do something.
Right.
But I don't want to go back to a 9 to 5, right? It's like knowing what I have now. Yeah. So I had to think outside the box, and that's where we started Lifeline to Health. I had an opportunity to take over my grandma's business that she started in 1980. And
is it the same business, or did it change somewhat?
So it's the same business. It's a partnership with a company called Shackley.
Okay.
They founded in 1956, very old, one of the earliest network marketing companies. Look them up. You'll be amazed on what they're doing for our planet. But so we partner with them, and then my mom is also part of this organization. And so together, Ruth Bell, my mom, we have partnered with a mentor in Malaysia. See, long story. This is getting way off topic here.
It's all right.
And through his coaching, mentorship, and leadership, we are developing what he has in both Malaysia, Taiwan, and Australia, and providing it here. And so it's a lifeline to anyone looking to make a change, and we provide it for free.
So it's been going on for quite a while.
Yes. So my grandma started it, but when my mom and I took over, we've really emphasized the lifeline. Really relates to my story with my son, and what we're doing. And so we've really taken that and owned that title.
Yeah.
And carried it on.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
So one of the things that you said is you trained for triathlons.
Yes.
How many triathlons have you competed in?
I have done 3. Wow. Yes. 2
full triathlons?
So I had to learn this. When I first was introduced to, hey, run a triathlon, I was just like, okay, no.
Everybody thinks of the Ironman.
Right away. And I learned that that's just a brand name too for a triathlon. But so it's the first 2 I did were a sprint, and that's like the lowest, smallest of the small. It's like a half-mile swim. It's I think 14-mile bike ride and a 5K. Yeah. So the first 2 were that, and then the last one was an Olympic. So it's double that.
Okay.
So who knows if this year will be an Olympic or if this year will be double that.
So there's many different versions of the triathlon.
There is, yeah.
But they all do the swimming, biking, running.
Exactly.
Different distances, all of that. I know at the Y we've done a couple of what we call sprint triathlons, but they're, they swim in the pool at the Y, they ride a stationary bike at the Y, and they run on a treadmill.
That's awesome.
So they're not doing anything across the road or anything like that. So it's all done right there on campus.
That's cool. And you can do that during the cold months too.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, you can't because the pool is outdoors, but it's still a summertime activity for us because we don't have that indoor pool. But yeah, that's interesting. Well, congratulations to you. It sounds like you live quite an exciting life and got a lot going on.
It's full.
Definitely interested in learning more about that. And I'm sure some of those experiences will come out in our conversation as we talk about coverage. Right. I was sharing with Kim prior to today's podcast the way in which she wrote her article, the perspective of coverage and how she framed her article was a little bit different thought process than what I've ever considered when you think about coverage. I mean, and she even called it out in her article. Think a lot about insurance when you think of the word coverage, and I think that that's natural.
I was thinking newscast.
Yeah, there you go. Coverage. Yeah. There's many different meanings and interpretations. For the purpose of today's discussion, we'll stick to the definition that Kim provided us, which is the state of condition of being protected from. And so insurance kind of fits into that, but I like the way that she framed it about the importance of looking at coverage about how we personally and professionally grow and develop ourselves intentionally so that we can be successful.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really important. So let's dig into some of these subject matters that she laid out in the article and just see if there's any nuggets that we can provide and share with those out there that are listening and or watching. So the first one was health, coverage for health, which I think is really interesting. Obviously very important as a leader for a organization who promotes fitness.
Yeah.
Health is pretty important.
Yeah.
We know that it's pretty important. Actually, there's a couple of the things in here that kind of align with us over at the Y and how we do our work. But physical health is important. It's hard to be successful if we're struggling with physical health. And, I think we learned a lot. You mentioned the pandemic and how it's changed a lot of us and impacted a lot of us. One of the things that we learned through the pandemic was it exposed a lot of vulnerabilities with health for a lot of people. I mean, this isn't necessarily a true statement for everyone, but a lot of people who were negatively impacted by COVID were struggling with health prior to attracting COVID, right? Pre-existing conditions became a well-known topic that was talked about. And to me, that just kind of reminded me on how important it is to prepare, right? And we got to think about what we're eating. We got to think about the exercise that we're taking and be intentional about how we're approaching coverage for our health. So what thoughts do you have around that and experiences that you can share with folks?
Yeah. So for me, I mean, I went through a season where I had to step back and look at my health because I experienced firsthand just how poor health just affected my attitude. It affected my outlook on life. I mean, I was groggy. I was stressed, over agitated. I mean, even unmotivated, whether to play with the kids, the way they want me to, or to get up and do what I need to do. And so I really had to step back and take a look at like my health. Cause really, if we lose our health, we've lost everything. Like you said, like if we don't have our health, how can we enjoy the success that we have?
Well, oftentimes, not to interrupt you, we can't even think about the other things if we're not healthy. If we're sick, if we're unwell, whatever, that becomes our focal point, and all the other stuff is on the back burner.
Exactly.
It's so important.
Yeah.
But go ahead, finish your thought.
Yeah. So I had to focus. I had to make a change and focus on 4 areas. I say SANE.
Okay.
Sane. And this is, I'm sure you've heard that before, but good sleep, a positive attitude, good nutrition, and then exercise.
Yeah.
So I needed to really focus on that so that I could have the positive mindset and really the energy to live life to its fullest. And those triathlons are a big part of that health journey. As I really had to change things.
Yeah. What caused the focus for change?
Well, it was really just being at a low, right? Just unmotivated, just seeing where I was at. Life is full. I'm getting hit in every direction. And it's like, I either choose to just let it keep hitting me and wear me down, or I say, where do I want to go in my life? And how am I going to get there?
Yeah.
And so that it was a motivation to change for my kids, for my family, and just my well-being.
How long has that transformation been happening for you?
Oh, that's a good question. So I would say it was during 2020. Okay. It was during that year, or really into 2021. Because stepping out of youth ministry, now being home, like just so many things change, right? You just have a lot of healing, a lot of time to process, because in 2017, my son was born with end-stage renal disease. I'm not going to go into the whole story.
Sure.
But he was on dialysis for the first 2.5 years of his life. And then he got my wife's kidney at age 2.5. And that's a lot to take on as a family and day to day.
Well, not to mention you have 3 other children.
Right. Yeah, right? Exactly. And at that time, we had 3. And so I was doing that. I was also leading a ministry at a mega church. And so not just the junior high and the senior high, but also the college ministry. And so, there's just a lot to do there. And so you tend to just tread water because you're wanting to help your family survive. You want your ministry to survive.
Right.
And then, well, what about your own self? Right. So it's that's kind of where it all hit. And then God led me to step out and homeschool the kids. And then it just kind of, a lot was shared to me during that year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. I know for me, when I think about my own personal physical health, that tends to be the one thing that I'll set aside the quickest, right? Because there's always so many other things going on, whether it be work related or family related or whatever. That seems to be the one thing that I often easily just remove from my plate because I've got all these other things to deal with. And over time, that catches up with you, right? And then you got to kind of reset your focus and understand if I can't do this physically, then I'm impacting everything else that I'm doing negatively. And I think it's an important piece for us. Important piece for us to really focus on. If we want to be successful, we've got to pay attention to our physical health and be intentional about how we protect that, because eventually it's going to catch up with us. Yeah. We see it all the time in people, and even in myself, I can speak about those experiences. So the second area then is the financial side of things, right? What are we doing to provide coverage for us financially?
Yeah.
And I know in my own experience of 54 years old, so I've had quite a bit of life experience. And whenever there's been financial challenges within my life, that's created a huge barrier for me from a growth perspective, because obviously when that happens, you're focused, you're stressed, you're worried about how you're going to fix whatever this thing is. And so it's important, I think, to be prepared for those storms that come in life. And it happens to all of us, right? The car breaks down or there's a flood in the basement because the sump pump didn't back up, and then you've got all kinds of things to fix and clean it, whatever it is. We have to be prepared to handle those things because the financial security that comes with preparing for those things gives you a lot of peace of mind to focus in other areas.
Yeah.
Even if you're not prepared, you're always worried about what am I going to do if this does happen type of thing. Yeah. Right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so having that financial security, I think, is a really important piece to help us be successful in achieving our dreams and our goals and all of those things that we all aspire to do. So can you share anything from your experience about the importance of financial coverage or experiences that you've had that may help others?
Yeah, one thing in the article, it said the peace of mind, right? Having that long-term security. And that hit me because, as I was thinking and reflecting on this coverage, and I think back in just last October, our son Ezekiel, he had a back surgery. Okay. And we go to Cincinnati Children's Hospital. That's where his transplant was. They're number one in the nation for transplants. Mm-hmm. And so now it was time to work on his back, fix scoliosis, start addressing that. So he had to be in a halo traction for a whole month. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. And if the audience doesn't, they can look that up, a halo traction. But basically they bolt this crown. I call it a crown. We called him a king, to his head. And that is weighted, and it's slowly putting tension on his spine and straightening it. And so for a whole month, he was in that. And they got up to his goal weight, and it stretched him 3 inches.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Just by correcting the spine.
Because it was going all sorts of ways. Wow. And then from there, then they put in adjustable rods. Okay. So that was a whole month that we were part of that. We were at the Ronald McDonald House. Part of that, we were staying in the hospital, and we were homeschooling so our kids could come. And of course, we had family in here, so we're really grateful they could be there. But going back to this, I was thinking, for that whole month, I had income coming in from Lifeline to Health, right, and what we've built up and what we've created there. So that extra stream of income was really a lifeline, a saver for us, because my wife, luckily she had PTO, and she was able to use PTO, get her base pay. But if she didn't, there would be nothing, right? We wouldn't get paid. But it was really assuring to know that this income was still coming in while we were working, or while we were there not working. Yeah.
So that's a really interesting story, and I think that it's a good lesson that can be learned for all of us in that. The other thing that I think when I was reading the article, and as I think about building financial security, financial coverage for ourselves, is the amount of discipline and foresight that it takes to do that, the intentionality it does. You got to plan ahead.
That's right.
Right. You've got to save money. You can't just spend every dollar you bring in. You've got to be able to set some of that aside and be smart about how you utilize those funds so that you can create some of that security for yourself. But even in your example, the change of employment provided some of that security for you, because you work for yourself.
That's right.
And you can be mobile, and you can do all of that. And not everybody has the ability to do that. So they've got to understand kind of the situation that they're in, and then take the steps to prepare themselves for the future based on that current situation. Right. I'm assuming, and I don't know the answer to this, that, when you made that career change to be flexible, can you talk about, did you think about the security that it provides you in a situation like that? Or is that just an unintentional blessing on your part? We know it's an intentional blessing by God to put you in a position like that to be prepared.
Yeah. So I did and I didn't. When I first, had the opportunity to take over my grandma's business, and like I said, it's a business in Shackley. And so really what we're talking about really covers that, because it's a health and wellness company, number one natural nutrition company in the U.S. And then we're about also providing an opportunity for finances. And so when I was approached with that opportunity, my big thing was, I want to stay home with my kids, right? I don't know what I'm getting into, but I also was like, I also don't want to be part of this. I had all sorts of perceptions about the industry and about how people have done it. And it's like, I don't know if I'm going to do that or want to. So I had to reach out for help of those that were successful. I was like, if I'm going to do this and go in full time, I need to see how it's being done. Right. And if it really fits with my values, the person God has created me to be, the way that I love people. So I was able to meet with a lot of people who were not successful, people who were, and I fell in the lap of a guy in Malaysia. He's got the largest organization in our company, learned how he did it. And I just fell in love right away with just his heart and philosophy for the company, how the company was founded, all sorts of stuff I didn't even know, and about the industry. And I had to learn that with the industry is really great. And there's a lot, the industry is great, but you have to separate actions of the people. And I even relate that to church. I relate that everywhere in my life. Like, you've got things that are great, and then you have some misconduct or unprofessional ways of doing it, and we have to separate people from the organization in a sense. So so I didn't trying to circle back to that question. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, except that I could see myself really leading in this way. It really fit the way that I was wired, to develop community, work with people, help people. And my story with Zeke, our son, just through that experience of people helping my wife and I, our family, through that time, really empowered us to want to be a lifeline to other people. And so that also it all just fit into place. I was like, I can do this. That's awesome. I want to do this.
That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. All right, well, let's move on for the sake of time. Let's talk about spiritual and emotional coverage. Now, being a former youth pastor, I'm sure you have some interesting perspective and insights here when it comes to spirituality. I myself believe that, the spiritual side of it is really, really important, having that foundation of faith, following God's direction, seeking counsel in that way, being prayerful. All of those things are extremely, extremely important. But I think for me, it gives me confidence as I go about my life, do my work, lead my family, to know that I'm rooted in that faith, and know that I can trust God in all of these situations that come my way. It doesn't mean I don't have things that I need to do, right, to provide security and protection. But I know that if God leads me into troubled waters, He's going to help rescue me from some of that too. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that. And I'm curious to hear from your perspective how important you think the spiritual and emotional coverage is, and how people can lean into that.
Yeah, I think, when it comes to faith, it's having something to hold on to, especially during difficult times, and our family's gone through a lot of difficult times, more than, you never know what somebody's going through until you really get to know them. Everybody has a story, and we even learned that in youth ministry, right? A kid can show up one week, and then a week later, his life could be completely different. You never know from one week to the next how their life has changed. But, for me, spiritual coverage, that's been a foundation. I think back to even when I was at Richwood's Christian Church, youth ministry there, time with Zeke, like I had really special meetings twice a week with the spiritual formation pastor there, Marty Hunt. And, those really shaped my time, because like you said, with physical exercise, that's easy to let go, right? All the other things, because it's you. It's like, well, I got to do other things. So it's really easy to not focus on the spiritual coverage and the emotional coverage, because it's not necessarily tangible, I guess, right? It's not something I can hold and fix or work on. And so I really cherish those times during that time. And we would even take walks after I stepped out of Richwoods. We'd always have our walks on the Rock Island Trail. And there's nothing too special about those, except that we're talking, and they're directed towards, where are you at? How you doing? So when I go back to that, I guess I go back to that coverage. That's that foundational thing that you hold on to. It's that intangible thing that is there, helping you through that time, I guess is what I'm saying.
One of the things I heard you say, and is that it was important for you to have somebody else to experience that with, right?
That's really good. Yeah.
The growth of spiritualness or spirituality happens a lot in community, right? So surrounding yourselves with others who share in that belief, and whatever that you can lean into, that are praying for you, that maybe have experienced some of the things that we're experiencing in a similar way, that can provide some counsel. There's a lot of benefit to prayer and reading the Bible and all of those things. I believe in all of those things, but I guess the thing that I would recommend to people is don't let that be the only thing.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's a community, a church, or a community of believers that you just spend time with regularly, that's where there's a ton of opportunity, I think, to grow in fellowship and to be encouraged through that experience to help us move forward. I believe it's a critically important part of our success.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to the final chapter here, we'll call it, and it's personal growth as coverage, and really thinking about what are you doing today to prepare yourself for tomorrow. I think that was even a quote somewhere in there similar to that in Kim's article. And the other thing that I like that she framed up is, when we're intentional about personal growth, and I think about professional development and all those things, we're preparing ourselves for opportunities that may not even be visible yet.
Exactly.
This experience today, you and I just met before the show, right?
Exactly,
have no idea how that's going to play out in our lives in the future. But when we intentionally take time and put effort into growing ourselves personally and professionally, we have no idea sometimes how that's going to pay off in the future. Right. And it's extremely valuable. As a leader of a pretty good sized nonprofit organization in Peoria with over 150 employees, that's one of the things that we value quite a bit for especially our leadership staff, our full-time staff, is making sure that we're taking time to invest in their development. And a lot of times that's not by things that we provide to them. We provide resources so they can go access it elsewhere. And it's critically important, I think, for everybody. And we have to really think about that.
Yeah, that's good. I know that one of those resources is I've decided community.
Yeah, right. Conference is coming up, which we'll talk about here at the end. And I know that's an opportunity to send some of our staff, give them the opportunity to come and engage in that experience. So that they can hopefully learn and grow and develop through that. But it's a critically important piece. So any thoughts you have around personal growth and the intentionality that's behind it?
Yeah, and it's very intentional. One of the quotes from the article was, think of personal growth as an insurance policy for your dreams, right? You're like, if you have a goal and you have dreams, you got to become that person that you want to be. And personal growth is going to be that avenue. And with Lifeline to Health, education is everything, because if you are able to educate them, that's going to last a lifetime, right? That's going to allow somebody to learn it and then forever be able to do it. And so, as part of our organization, that is basically the foundation is providing training and education weekly, so that they know that what they're getting into. But I kind of lost where I was going with that to bring it back. But yeah, I forgot.
It's all right.
Bummer. If it comes back, I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I think, we're winding down on time anyway. But if you think of it here before we wrap up, please do share it, because I'm sure there's some value in that. And I think, the one thing that we can all do, especially after this conversation, and I encourage everyone out there who's listening or watching, is to really take some intentional time to evaluate where you are in these four components, whether it be your physical health, your finances, your faith, your personal growth. How are you doing in each of these areas? Where are there opportunities for you to grow? And then really spend some time thinking about how you can be more intentional in each of those areas. I'm sure there's opportunities in each of those areas for all of us. We're probably doing better in some areas than others. But if we don't spend some time thinking about it and really evaluating our current status, then it's really hard to create a game plan on how to move forward that way. So I just want to encourage everybody to do that. I know I'm going to take some time to do that after having this conversation, because I think it's always important. And then I think whether it be on an annual basis or biannual basis or however you do it, come back to it down the road a little bit and see if there's there's been any growth for you in that way, because there's certainly a ton of value here. So,
I do remind it when you said intentional, being intentional, that triggered it, because I was, with self-development, obviously it's intentional. But I know for me, when it comes to self-development, I'm one that just wants to learn it and keep getting training and continue to suck in that knowledge. But it actually came to a point where I was just collecting knowledge and not doing anything with it. And so when I was reading this, it came to my mind that like self-advancement is to me is different than self-development, because right, we can absorb all the information, but then what we do with that, how we act, you put that into action, is really how we're going to advance, whether it's in our success or working out or in any of these. Because I have gone many years of just training after training after training, learning after learning, but really no action with that. And so how long does that go?
That's really, really good. I think it's a really important point, right? Is we can gather all kinds of information, but what are we going to do in response to it? I'm a big athlete. I'm a fan of athletics. So I spend a lot of time in that scope. I heard a quote over the weekend. So I don't know if you're a fan of the NFL or anything like that, but I thought, watching the Ravens and the Bills game, there was a player for the Ravens that had a catastrophic drop in the football game. Basically, the game was over when this player dropped the ball. And I heard the interview with the coach after the game, and they asked about how did you handle that player in that situation? And the coach's response was that and I won't get this exactly right, but something to the effect of, our success and our destiny in life is determined by the way that we respond to adversity. And his quote was that player is going to be fine because he knows how to handle these types of situations. But I think that goes in line with what you're saying, is how we handle the information we gather, the learning that we gather, how we respond to that, how we implement it in our life is really where the success comes from. So it can't just be all about downloading, right? There's got to be some intentionality in how we engage in that. So I really appreciate you bringing that. That's a great way to kind of summarize all of this. So thank you for that. Thanks for joining me today, David. It's been great to meet you and have this conversation. And I look forward to getting to learn more about you as time goes on. So for those of you out there in the I've Decided community, don't forget the I've Decided annual conference is coming up soon. So you have an opportunity to engage in some personal and professional development there.
Come join us. I'll be a speaker on one of the stations. I can't say any more, but hope to have you join us. It'll be great.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing you here next time on our community.